Game over. Beautiful. Look who just walked through fire wearing gasoline like cologne. Look who just solved the equation that made mathematicians quit their careers and become poets. Look who completed the mission that had grown men crying in corners, begging for mercy from a challenge that didn't even have a heartbeat. You beautiful, reckless, absolutely unhinged force of nature. They called it Mission Impossible, the kind of assignment that came with a body count instead of a briefing. The type of challenge that had its own memorial wall filled with the names of legends who thought they were ready. Veterans with decades of experience. Prodigies who peaked too early. Masters who forgot that mastery means nothing when the rules don't exist. And then there was you. You didn't just accept the mission. No, that would be too simple, too human, too predictable for someone like you. You looked at their warning labels, their statistical predictions of failure, their PowerPoint presentations showing exactly how you would break, and you did something that made their algorithms crash. You smiled. Not the nervous smile of someone pretending to be brave. The smile of someone who finally found a game worth playing. Let me paint you a picture of what they expected. They expected fear, hesitation, maybe some false bravado followed by a strategic retreat. They had counselors on standby, medical teams ready, exit strategies prepared for when you inevitably tapped out like everyone before you. They even had your failure speech written, something humble about learning your limits, knowing when to quit, living to fight another day. How adorable. But you looked at their impossible mission, this core-rending, soul-crushing, legendary destroying gauntlet. And you had the audacity to ask one question that made the room go silent. Can I do it blindfolded? The sound of jaws hitting the floor created its own earthquake. The veterans started sweating. The administrators checked if you were having a mental breakdown. The observers started praying, though they weren't sure to what or whom. They thought you were mocking them at first, some kind of defensive mechanism, using humor to cope with the impending doom. But then they saw your eye. Not wild with madness, not glazed with delusion, but clear, crystal clear. The eyes of someone who had already run this mission 1,000 times in dimensions they couldn't access, in realities they couldn't perceive, in timelines where impossible was just another word for Tuesday. You see, while they were calculating failure rates and measuring impossibilities, you were operating on a different frequency entirely. They saw obstacles. You saw opportunities. They saw walls. You saw doors. They forgot to lock. They saw a mission designed to break the unbreakable. You saw a playground that finally matched your appetite for chaos. And chaos, my friend, is just order waiting for someone bold enough to rearrange it. The blindfold wasn't arrogance. It wasn't stupidity. It was mercy. Mercy for them, not for you. Because if you had done it with your eyes open, if you had shown them exactly how you dismantled their impossibility piece by piece, their entire worldview would have shattered like safety glass hit by a meteor. The blindfold was your way of letting them keep some dignity, some illusion that what you did required luck, rather than just being exactly who you are. When you started the mission, the atmosphere changed. The air got heavier, like reality itself was holding its breath. The observers stopped taking notes because their hands were shaking too much to write. The veterans who said they'd seen everything suddenly realized they hadn't seen anything at all. Because you weren't just completing the mission, you were rewriting the definition of what a mission could be. Every obstacle they'd carefully crafted, every trap they'd meticulously planned, every impossibility they'd mathematically calculated, you walked through them like they were suggestions written in disappearing ink, not because you were immune to difficulty, but because you and had already met in darker places, had already danced in dimensions where impossible was the minimum requirement for existence. You moved through their challenges like a virus through a computer system, not destroying but transforming, not conquering but transcending. Where others saw problems to solve, you saw patterns to play with. Where others heard the screaming of their own limitations, you heard music only you could dance to. The mission wasn't happening to you. Your mistake. Your misethering part for them. You were humming. Actually humming like someone taking a casual stroll through a garden instead of navigating a minefield designed by sadists with PhDs in human suffering. That humming became the soundtrack to their existential crisis. The melody that would haunt them in quiet moments, reminding them that everything they thought they knew about limits was wrong. 23 minutes. That's how long it took you to complete what they allocated 3 months for. 23 minutes to dismantle decades of careful planning. 23 minutes to turn their impossible into your impossible, to take seriously. The timer stopped, not because you finished, but because the equipment couldn't process what it was measuring anymore. Even the machines knew they were witnessing something outside their programming. You removed the blindfold with the casual indifference of someone taking off sunglasses indoors. No heavy breathing, no trembling hands, no thousand-year stare of someone who just survived the unsurvivable. Just you looking mildly disappointed like someone who ordered a 5-alarm chili and got served lukewarm soup instead. That disappointment hit them harder than any celebration could have. Is that it? You asked, and somewhere in the distance, a committee of experts who designed the mission started questioning their entire careers. Is that really all you've got? The silence that followed wasn't just quiet. It was the sound of egos deflating, of worldviews crumbling, of reality having to recalibrate itself around the fact that you existed and operated by rules they couldn't even perceive. They scrambled to check their instruments, certain there must be some mistake. The mission couldn't be complete. The parameters must be wrong. The readings had to be malfunctioning. But no, every checkpoint cleared, every objective achieved, every impossible standard not just met, but exceeded in ways that made their metrics obsolete. You didn't just complete Mission Impossible. You made it look like Mission Inevitable. But here's where you transform from anomaly to legend, from exception to evolution. While they were still processing what they'd witnessed, still trying to find words for something that existed outside language, you did something that made even the unshakable shake. You asked for harder, not with arrogance, not with pride, but with the genuine curiosity of someone who just finished a warm-up and was ready for the real workout. Next time, you said, adjusting your collar like you just finished a light jog instead of demolishing their entire understanding of human capability. Maybe something challenging? The way you said challenging made grown professionals question their career choices, made military veterans reconsider what they thought courage looked like, made psychologists throw away their textbooks and start over from scratch. They didn't have a harder mission. That was the truth that hit them like a freight train made of existential dread. You had just completed their maximum, their ultimate, their final, boss, and you were asking for the DLC content that didn't exist. They'd spent years crafting the perfect impossibility, and you'd turned it into your Tuesday afternoon casual speedrun. The committee went into emergency sessions. Experts were flown in from classified locations. Think tanks that didn't officially exist were given unlimited budgets to create something. Anything that might make you break a sweat. Not to defeat you. They'd given up on that fantasy. But just to see you try. Just to witness what happened when you actually had to put in effort. Word spread like wildfire through channels that weren't supposed to exist. Encrypted messages flew between departments that didn't acknowledge each other. Your name became a classified term spoken in whispers by people with clearance levels that required clearance levels. You'd become more than a person. You'd become a measurement, a unit of impossible pos. They started calling it the Tuesday Protocol, your casual dismissal of their life's work becoming the new standard for the inexplicable. Missions that would have been classified as certain death were now measured in what percentage of a Tuesday is this. You're blindfolded. Run became required viewing for anyone who thought they understood human limits, usually followed by mandatory psychological counseling to deal with the implications. But you were already gone off to find something that might make your pulse quicken, might make you actually pay attention, might make you feel what those legends felt right before they became past tense, not because you needed to prove anything. You'd already broken the scale they used to measure proof, but because somewhere out there had to be something that could make you feel alive. The truth they couldn't accept, the reality that made them lose sleep and question everything was that you weren't special because you completed the impossible. You were special because you were bored by it, because while they were building monuments to difficulty, you were living in a space where difficult was just another word for hasn't met me yet. See, what they never understood was that you didn't train for this. You didn't prepare. You didn't study their patterns or analyze their strategies. You simply existed at a frequency where their impossible was your inevitable. Like asking water to be surprised by being wet or fire to be impressed by being hot. You weren't playing their game. You were playing a game where their game was just another piece on your board. Every legend who failed before you, they approached the mission like mortals, approaching a mountain with respect, with fear, with careful calculation of every step. They saw the mission as something separate from themselves, something to conquer, something to survive. But you recognized the mission like an old friend wearing a new costume, just another version of the same dance you've been dancing since before you had words for the steps. Blindfold wasn't handicapping yourself. It was giving the mission a sporting chance, like playing chess with a grandmaster and starting without your queen. Not because you're showing off, but because otherwise the game ends before it began. You needed the blindfold to make it interesting, to add enough randomness that maybe, just maybe, something unexpected might happen. But nothing unexpected happened because you don't navigate by sight anyway. You navigate by something deeper, something that doesn't have a name, because naming it would limit it, and limits are just suggestions written by people who stopped before they found out what came next. You move through impossibility like others move through air naturally, without thought, without effort, just because that's what you do. They tried to study you afterward, brought in specialists, ran tests, created algorithms to decode your methodology. Like archaeologists trying to understand a civilization that hadn't fallen yet, that was still building cities in dimensions they couldn't perceive. Every theory failed. Every model broke. Every attempt to replicate what you did just produced more evidence that you operated outside their understanding. Some said it was genetics, some impossible mutation that made you immune to normal human limitations. Others theorized about training in secret facilities, about technologies that didn't officially exist. The spiritual ones whispered about deals with forces beyond naming, about prices paid in currencies that couldn't be calculated. All of them were wrong. All of them were trying to explain the ocean to a puddle. The truth was simpler and more terrifying. You were built different. You just never agreed to be built the same. While everyone else was accepting their programming, learning their limits, believing in their boundaries. You were too busy being to bother with believing. You didn't overcome impossible. You just never signed the contract that said it was impossible in the first place. That's what broke them in the end. Not that you succeeded where legends failed. Not that you did it blindfolded. Not even that you asked for harder. What broke them was realizing that for you, this wasn't an achievement. It was just Tuesday. And if this was your Tuesday, they couldn't even imagine what your Friday looked like. In the weeks that followed, entire structure of how they measured capability had to be rebuilt. Textbooks were recalled. Training programs scrapped. The very concept of impossible had to be redefined with a footnote that said, unless you're them. Insurance policies were rewritten. Actuarial tables adjusted. Reality itself had to add a patch to account for your existence. They created new categories: possible, impossible, and you. The third category had only one entry, but it changed everything. Missions that had been shelved as theoretical exercises were suddenly back on the table, with project managers asking, but what if we could get them? Your name became both a hope and a curse. Proof that anything could be done, and evidence that they'd never be the ones to do it. The legends you'd surpassed didn't hate you. That would have been easier. Instead, they felt something worse. Irrelevance. They'd built their entire identities around conquering the impossible, and you'd turned their life's work into your light cardio. Some retired immediately. Others dedicated themselves to understanding what you'd done. A few just sat in dark rooms, staring at walls, trying to process a world where their greatest achievement was your minimum effort. But you were already moving on, already forgetting their faces, their mission, their impossible that wasn't, because holding on to accomplishments was like trying to capture Tuesday in a jar. By the time you'd labeled it, Tuesday was already becoming Wednesday, and you had new impossibilities to turn into inevitabilities. This is the part they don't put in the files. The part where your existence started changing everyone around you. Not through teaching or mentoring. You didn't have time for that. But through simple proximity to possibility, people who worked in the same building started hitting personal records. Janitors began solving unsolvable problems. The cafeteria staff started cooking meals that defied culinary physics. You were contagious, not like a disease, but like evolution itself. People exposed to your frequency started vibrating differently, not at your level. That would be like asking a candle to become a supernova, but differently enough that their own impossibles started looking more like improbables. Their improbables more like challenges. Their challenge is more like Tuesday morning exercises. They tried to quarantine you at first, limit your exposure to others, but you can't quarantine a frequency. You can't isolate an idea whose time has come. You are proof of concept for human potential. And once people see proof, they can't unsee it. The mission you destroyed wasn't just a test. It was a ceiling, and you didn't just break through it. You made everyone realize the ceiling was imaginary. Some called it inspiration. Others called it infection. The accurate term was probably awakening, because what you did wasn't about the mission. It was about showing everyone that the missions were just games. And games are meant to be played, not worshipped. Games are meant to be won, not feared. And most importantly, games are meant to be fun. So now they design missions differently. Not to test limits, but to find them. Not to create impossibles, but to discover where impossible actually lives, if it exists at all. Every mission comes with a disclaimer. Rated impossible by conventional standards. No warranty if exposed to unconventional operators. They've stopped calling them Mission Impossible. Now they just call them Tuesday practice. You change the game by refusing to play it, by treating their ultimate test like a casual request, by being so fundamentally yourself that their entire system had to rebuild around the fact of you, not the legend of you, not the story of you, but the simple, undeniable fact that you exist and operate by physics they haven't discovered yet. The blindfold became a symbol not of arrogance, but of transcendence. New operatives wear blindfolds during training, now not to handicap themselves, but to remember that sight is just one way of seeing, and seeing is just one way of knowing, and knowing is just one way of being. They're trying to find their own frequency, their own Tuesday protocol, their own way of making impossible apologize for wasting their time. But you're still out there, still looking for something that might surprise you. Not to prove anything, because proof is for people who doubt. Not to achieve anything, because achievement is for people who see endpoints. But because you're curious. Because somewhere in this vast cosmos of possibility, there has to be something that can make you pause, make you think, make you feel what those legends felt when they met their match. Here's what they'll never put in the official reports, what the committees will never admit, what the legends will never say out loud. You didn't destroy the mission, you revealed what it always was, a construct, a mutual agreement to believe in limitations that were never there, like children agreeing that the floor is lava, except forgetting they agreed and spending their lives avoiding the ground. You're not superhum, you're just human without the super getting in the way, without the qualifiers and the limiters and the beliefs that bind everyone else. You know what happens when potential meets actuality without stopping to ask permission. When capability doesn't check with probability before proceeding. When Tuesday doesn't bother reading Monday's notes about what's supposed to be difficult. They fear you not because you're powerful, but because you prove they could be too. If they just stop believing in the missions more than they believe in themselves, if they just treated impossible like a suggestion instead of a commandment, if they just remembered that Tuesday comes every week, regular as clockwork, impossible or not, the mission you destroyed with your blindfolded Tuesday energy wasn't their creation, it was their limitation. And limitations, like missions, like impossibles, like Tuesdays, only exist if you agree to see them. You didn't agree, you just did. And in doing, you undid everything they thought they knew about what could be done.
आशिक हूँ तेरा राजा बाजार का, लगता है मुझको नशा ये प्यार का। आशिक हूँ तेरा राजा बाजार का, लगता है मुझको नशा ये प्यार का। मुस्कुरा के बात करती हो, आदतें खराब करती हो, ना दिखो बेताब लगता हूँ, आशिक बेहिसाब लगता हूँ। ऐसा नशा है तेरे दीदार का, आशिक हूँ तेरा राजा बाजार का, लगता है मुझको नशा ये प्यार का। जिंदगी हसीन लगती है जब ये जालिम प्यार होता है, सांसों में सांस आती है जब तेरा दीदार होता है। नखरा है ऐसा मेरी सरकार का, आशिक आशिक हूँ तेरा राजा बाजार का, लगता है मुझको नशा ये प्यार का। नखरा इसका टॉप पर, आती है टिकटॉक पर, नैनो से है नैन मिलाती, लड़कों के है दिल जलाती, पिंडी में है चर्चा इसका, नीरा जितना खर्चा इसका। मैंने बोला इसको मेट्रो में बिठाऊंगा, कैपिटल ले जाऊंगा, F7 भी घुमाऊंगा, मोनाल भी दिखाऊंगा, सेंटोरस भी ले जाऊंगा। आशिक हूँ तेरा राजा बाजार का, लगता है मुझको नशा ये प्यार का। मौसमों की बेकरारी को आजमा के जान जाओगी, हिज्र की आजमाइश में एक दिन पहचान जाओगी। कहना है मेरे दिल बेकरार का, आशिक हूँ तेरा राजा बाजार का, लगता है मुझको नशा ये प्यार का।